Welcome back to the 3x5 Live
podcast.
On this podcast, we talk about mindset, mindfulness, wellness, productivity. Last week, we talked about mentors and masterminds.
We did.
We're recording this on a Sunday, so I did a little prep work for my mastermind call tomorrow. I like to kind of hash out my weekly review, which plays right into
what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah. If you guys are blessed enough to be watching this on YouTube, you see my awesome t-shirt I'm wearing right now.
It says Hadley and Nash's dad. He coaches both their soccer teams, and he wore this today all day to both their final soccer games.
Yes.
Just to embarrass them.
It's awesome. So we are going to be talking about why. And I did a Instagram post this weekend, and it was kind of like the 4 levels of why, this journaling activity I like to do. And that kind of sparked this conversation with Jessie and I about the word why. But going back to the Instagram post, so basically I'll take a topic, any topic. This topic was, what does a day look like for me in 3 years? And then I'll journal on that. And then I'll basically ask myself why 4 times. Why? But why? Fantastic, but why? And then it's super painful process. Literally, you should take a few hours to do it. Because when you get to that 4th why, you're like, oh, I've exhausted. But that's kind of where the gold is. And then after that 4th why, you kind of rejournal again on, your answer to the initial topic. And then you kind of come up with next actions of where you want to go. And what kind of spawned this? I do this with different topics all the time. But I'm in a lot of transition points right now in my life and crossroads. And so I can kind of see decisions I make now are going to really impact me in 2-3 years from now. So I wanted to get crystal clear of where I wanted to be in 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. So that's where the power of why comes in.
It reminds me a little bit of that affirmations and like forward-facing questions and prompts and things that you can get yourself to really think about what it'll feel like in the future. Because so often we're reactive instead of proactive. And I think that it's a good exercise. I have not done this exercise, but I feel like that same question would be really helpful for us to answer together, because we've had a lot of conversations recently about what is this going to look like in a few years, and what seeds are we planting now that we're going to be able to water and then see it fruit eventually in 3 years, because that's an important conversation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And you can use it with anything, that just whatever topic you want, but then go the 4 levels of why and journal it out.
This is something that, Bryan brought this post up, and I had seen the post on Instagram, and then we began talking about that idea of why. And I do a practice with my graduate students. And when I do, talks and professional developments, where I think it's really, really important for us to pause and sit there and think about meaning, and then how our meaning then relates to our overall, what I call a purpose statement. And so I'm going to ask you, and I did this last week too, but if you can press pause and grab a piece of paper or a pencil or something that you can kind of jot down and do this exercise, I think that these questions might be really, really helpful. And we will put these in the show notes as well. So if you don't have time to go through these questions in, their full force, then you can come back and look at these at a later date. But the first thing I ask is to answer the question, I am inspired by. So the second one is I am proud of. I get excited to is the third one. And then I am happy when I am, and this is broken up into 3 pieces. So I am happy when I am doing, and then I am happy when I'm being, and I am happy when I am having. Okay. So again, it's doing, being, happy underneath of having underneath of that idea of.
Yeah. So before we jumped in here, Jessie made me answer these questions in like record time. So just to add some context to it.
Right. So what did you write?
So I'm inspired by, and what came to me is seeing people experience transformation. That's what inspires me. I am proud of my transformation and accomplishments over the last 5 to 10 years. I am excited to help other people experience transformation. Mm-hmm. And then I'm happy when I am doing, and I put doing challenging activities, being present to the world around me, and having stimulating conversations. So this was just like off the cuff, had me do this really quickly. So that's kind of what came up when you had me fill this out.
And so then I had him take that information. This is what I say. So that's really kind of like your meaning. That's like what, fuels your fire. That's where you find the most joy. That's when you feel fulfilled. And so taking that information and then using that to kind of sift through, filter through to come up with a purpose statement. And a purpose statement is something that obviously can shift. We've talked about purpose in the past. This isn't something that is like ingrained in stone, like the 10 Commandments, and you have to abide by this for the rest of your life. This can shift. But if you have a statement that you can put that's visible, whether it's like a Post-it note on your desk or a 3x5 card every day that you want to write in the notes section, your purpose statement would be like this. Okay. So that was that meaning exercise. The purpose exercise is broken up into 4 different components. So you're going to ask yourself the similar prompts. You can write this down. I think it'll be easiest if you do that. And it's going to be 2, 4, buy, and so. So you're taking that meaning statement and you're rolling it into then this purpose, right? So what would you put for 2? My purpose is to.
So in the 2 seconds that you had me do this, thank you, Jessie, all this prep time, to help people transform themselves from who they are to who they are capable of becoming.
So this is that higher level meaning purpose, right? And then the second statement is my purpose for.
And this was hard for me because it's, I have the 3x5 like community. I have people I interact with in life. But I try to do this with kind of whoever comes into my universe. So I said, for all those who enter like my orbit, my universe, which is kind of, I don't know, how I operate a little.
I do. I feel like that is, Bryan makes it a point every time that he interacts with anybody. It could be we're at Costco in the checkout line and he makes sure he reads people's name tags and says something about them, asks them a personal question. I think you're a connector. That's one of your superpowers for sure. So his is very broad, right? So who enter my universe, and you can kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So kind of pre-COVID, I had this kind of fun exercise that I stopped doing after COVID hit because it was this eye color game. So I'd go into the grocery store or Starbucks and like I look people in the eyes and I'd say green, brown,
in your head.
In my head, I'd say yes. I would say this in my head. Like I would see their eye color and that extra half second it took to like see what color their eyes were made that person feel seen. And obviously when masks went on, then it just was really creepy. It's like I'm staring at them. I can't get the whole facial recognition thing. But there's a power in making people feel seen. And if you have that little interjection, let's say in a Starbucks line with somebody, how that can pass down to other people. And that's the little micro impacts I think are very important.
So this 4 statement can be something big like that, right? Like, so he said, any person who enters my universe. For me, my purpose statement that I created for my work with schools was like for school communities, teachers, educators, and students, right? So this is where I was talking about the purpose statement can shift depending on which role you're participating in. Yeah. My focus for work, my focus for family, but these statements are they're helpful to get clear on, okay, this is my overall meaning. So who am I serving in this work? And then that my purpose by, this is that action oriented. So you just identified 2, 4, and then by. So what did you write for that?
And then I said by impacting them through a memorable engagement.
Okay, so that's your action step, right? That's exactly what you're going to do. For me, it was developing workshops that tap into well-being, wellness, that piece. So that's where you're getting clear on the action step of how to fulfill your purpose. And then the last part is so.
And I have so they feel seen and are inspired to help others flourish on their life journey.
And I think this brings us back to the why. Why do we do the work that we do, right? Yep. And that gives you that connection to meaning, and then that overall goal purpose is in alignment. So this is just a quick little exercise. I think Bryan literally did it in 5 minutes because I made him before we hopped on this podcast. You can journal on it weekly, monthly. Yeah. I think the cards are a perfect place for you to kind of unpack this a little bit with yourself because it can shift and change. And you can even do a purpose statement every day. You could do a purpose statement of today, 2, 4, by so that you then are showing up in a way that is matches that statement.
Yeah. And so like the 4 layers of why, I think that's a longer journaling exercise where you can really, you're gonna have to grind through that exercise. Something like this, like Jessie and I were talking about a little earlier when she had me do this, she's like, well, sometimes doing something very quick, your gut reaction, just that like whatever comes out, it is really an authentic message of how you feel when you get, asked any question.
Mm-hmm. This is an exercise you could also do with a partner. You could do this with teams. You could do this with organizations. And when we do it with professional development, I do this with teachers and sometimes a team of teachers that work together. And it's interesting when you can identify what a person's purpose statement is, because behaviors and things that they're doing or contributing or how they respond to something becomes a little bit clearer when you know where their focus lies.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll put this, I'll kind of like outline this in the show notes for you guys so that you can kind of reference it. But this can be kind of like the guiding light of how that the exercise is done.
Yep. So remember, we went back and we did 4 layers of why, the journaling practice.
Yep.
We did the meaning exercise where you did the I am inspired by, I am proud by, I get excited to, and then I am happy when I, and then that rolls into that purpose statement of to, for, by, so. So we kind of threw a lot of practices at you. This doesn't have to be done at once, but we just thought they were all kind of connected in this weird sort of way through our dialogue with each other. And we were excited to share them with you.
All right, guys.
Have a great week. Thanks so much.
Until next week. Enjoy.
Take care.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Oh, we are all